diverse groups produce better outcomes.
Hello and welcome back. myArbitration here in Edinburgh, Scotland, where we're having the ICA Congress, a celebration of diversity. And one member of our community that's also famous for promoting diversity is my dear friend Ravi here. And I'm delighted that you will speak with us a little bit about diversity. Hi, Ravi.
Hello, thanks so much for having me, Victoria. It's a real pleasure.
Hi, so there's one word that I think you introduced in the context of diversity.
Yes.
That is
social mobility.
Social mobility. But what exactly is social mobility?
Social mobility effectively cuts across everything and does often give rise to intersectional considerations. It basically means that there has for a long time been a reputation, which at least partly has been deserved, that the English bar has been the preserve of rich people. And we are trying to change that because, as we know from other conversations and studies, the bar, any branch of the legal profession, needs to reflect the society it serves. We all know, and I think it's a given now in these discussions, that diverse groups produce better outcomes. But there are particular challenges that people from lower socioeconomic groups tend to experience. For example, not being mentored at a young stage in their careers, not being given advice about universities to apply to aspire high. And so it's one of those things you really have to catch when people are very young to make them aware that there is a career at the bar that's open to them, that they are welcome, and it can be achieved.
So Robbie, what advice would you give to someone who wants to get their foot into arbitration?
I think there are a number of things which I wish I had learned 20 or 25 years ago when I was first thinking about my career. And the main thing I would say is I never appreciated when I was starting out. Yes, it's important to be good at the law and to have a sound knowledge of law and practice, but that's not the only thing you need to succeed in a career, especially in a community like this. The importance of developing soft skills, of learning how to network, just how to make friends with people who could then potentially become colleagues later down the line. It works very well because the community, as you know, is a very friendly and open and welcoming one. But I wish I had learned when I was a bit more junior that it's actually important to focus on those things and not just be a great lawyer.
And how do you make friends? Can you tell people? How do they learn to make friends?
Well, it's funny you say this. There are so many people who have approached me at Edinburgh over the last few days of the Congress and have said, I recognize you from LinkedIn. You're posting some brilliant stuff. Can I talk to you about this? Or something along those lines. And so I do think there's something to be said for the power of social media.
Yeah.
Obviously, you want to be known for doing the right things and not posting anything inappropriate. But that is a very powerful tool, which I always encourage people to try to get involved with. Signing up to young organizations such as Young ICA, ICC-YAF, the LCIA has a young practitioners group. These are all great things which by and large are free to join. And once you're on that mailing list, you learn what events are happening, you learn who are the people who you should try to meet or be introduced to. So you really get, I think, what you put into the community. If you make a bit of effort, you can very quickly develop some great plans and ideas.
What are your tips and your advice for how to use LinkedIn, how to use social media? Obviously, I don't know, if you start out, if you're young, people probably don't want to read your essay for law school. So what do you post and how do you act and engage on LinkedIn?
I was having this conversation with a mentee the other day, and I was using Clubhouse a lot during the pandemic, and I listened to a lot of social media commentators and gurus. And one of the things they said, which has really stuck with me, is the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule means for every one post, that's the 20%, you do, which is bragging about your own achievements, whether it be an award or a case, you should do 4 posts, that's the 80%, which are not about you as an individual, but just add value to your network, making them aware of a recent case or development or a proposed piece of legislation, maybe an event you went to which you had some points which were really insightful and you're doing a little write-up. Something along along those lines. And more than just the numbers, it really got me thinking that there are many people in our community who do this very, very well, who try to add value and not just promote themselves. Equally, I have seen a minority of people, not many, but who only ever seem to post about their own achievements. And it's a way of doing LinkedIn, but personally I don't think it's necessarily the best way, especially if you're relatively junior. I think it's important that people know that you know what you know about arbitration, but you're also trying to help them by summarizing talks or giving them a heads up on a new case or piece of law.
Yeah, well, about bragging yourself, I think women tend to put themselves smaller and make themselves smaller than they are, and women tend to not to appreciate or enjoy bragging about themselves. At the same time, I think a lot of women should be more proud of what they've achieved and should wear this more like a badge of honor and let the community know what they can do. How do they present themselves, and do you see that there's a disbalance between how women promote themselves and how men promote themselves?
I think that's definitely right. I think as lawyers generally we are prone a little bit to judge ourselves more harshly than we would judge other people, but I would completely agree that there does seem to be a split between the genders, and women sometimes don't brag when they should, and men sometimes do brag when they shouldn't, if I can generalize. But you're absolutely right, and I wouldn't want anyone to think I'm saying you shouldn't be doing anything on LinkedIn to promote yourself, or more generally. I think people are interested if you tell them about your achievements or something notable that you've done or a success you've had in a case. People do want to know, and it's important that we publicize our own achievements to make sure that everybody else in the community knows about them. That said, like I said, I don't think every post you do should be on this particular topic. So as ever, it's a question of striking a balance. But I would certainly encourage people who do nothing at all along these lines to do it.
If I gave you 15 seconds to brag about yourself, what would you say? Go.
My biggest achievement to date has been on a recent arbitral tribunal I was appointed on. The institution in that case did the appointment and the nominations effectively itself, so it had a free rein. I'm one of the wing arbitrators. My other wing arbitrator is a black gentleman, and we are chaired by a black woman. It's the most diverse tribunal I've ever been on. Nobody has ever made a suggestion that there's been a compromise on quality to achieve that diversity. And it's something I'm very proud of because it shows what you can achieve with a little bit of effort.
This is the most humble self-bragging I've ever heard, Ravi. Terrible, terrible. You failed.
Oh,
congratulations on this lovely panel.
Thank you very much.
I think that's really beautiful.
Thank you so
for
much.
sharing that.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.